Cyber Uncut. Discover the changing face of business, government and national security as Australia navigates the cyber revolution.
Well, good day everyone, Liam Garman here, editor of Cyber Daily, back with another episode of the Cyber Uncut podcast. And today, bit of a clash of the titans.
Yeah.
You know, like Daniel, Croft and I, we haven't been on a podcast together for months.
No, David's away, off doing his thing. I'm sure he's having a great time on his little break.
Yeah.
We're back.
We're back together.
Yeah.
We are so back. We are back. So for people, for our listeners that don't necessarily know, I speak to the outside nerds and
Yep.
you speak to the inside nerds.
Yeah, David and I, that's us.
Yeah. That's what I said, inside nerds.
Yeah.
So today I'm going to be an inside nerd.
Yeah.
Inside here.
Welcome.
At Cyber Daily. Thank you. I had my white monster before I came in.
Oh, very good.
So the heart's racing, ready to go, ready to seize the day. Daniel, big few weeks in the world of cybersecurity.
It sure has been.
Starting off with socials. What's going on in the world of Insta?
Yeah, so we all remember the social media ban that kind of got announced. I think it was in November. It's going to come into effect in November. Well, funnily enough, Instagram or Meta is trialing the use of AI for age verification, which, you know, perfect for our legislation. But it's quite an interesting one. So they say they're using AI to detect to ensure our technology is accurate and that we're correctly placing teens we identify into protective, age-appropriate settings.
Uh-huh.
Now, this is something they've been doing for a bit, but they're like upgrading it pretty much.
So, that does open a few questions.
Yeah.
I feel like the main question that I want to start off with is, how much bad stuff is there on Instagram that you have like different Instagrams?
Instagram can get pretty bad. There was a period recently, and I had a bunch of mates talking about it. I saw news articles about it where there was just really brutal, uncensored content on Instagram.
Yeah. There was that like 12-hour period where people kept dying.
Yeah. There were people
what was
like
that? Did we ever get to the bottom of that?
Not really. I think they kind of just went, "Oh, sorry," and
something happened.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. Something happened because I remember there was that. It was like at the beginning of the year, maybe.
Yeah.
And there was like a 12-hour period where like everything was just gore.
Yeah.
on
It's like
Reels.
beheading videos and stuff. Yeah.
And I was like, but I've never been that way inclined.
No.
You know, like my Instagram feed is politics. It's dogs.
Yeah.
Other stuff.
Yeah.
Definitely not gore.
No.
And it kind of came out of nowhere. What the hell? But then everyone commenting on, because I was like, this is really weird. And I clicked on the comments, and all the comments were like, what the hell is this doing on my feed?
Yeah.
And like, why is my
this
feed...
is not something I look at.
Yeah, and I saw people posting about it on Facebook, being like, oh, you know, surviving, like, I don't know, February 17 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So we never actually got to the bottom of that, which is quite weird.
No, it kind of got glossed over. But because I remember, like, when I was younger, Facebook was like that.
Yeah.
When I first had a Facebook account at, how old would I have been? Like 12 or something.
Yeah.
There was stuff like that would occasionally appear, but that was just like a wave of really, really horrible stuff. So, I mean, good that they're kind of looking out for the teens. They introduced a thing last year in September called teen accounts for Instagram.
Yeah.
And so this is pretty much just making sure anyone under 16 kind of fits into that category.
But, I mean, you might not even have the answer to this, but surely like a lot of the risks involved in social media are going to be present regardless because a lot of the risks are involved with like messaging illicit content and stuff.
Yeah.
So if you start messaging functions, and it was identified at the time why Snapchat wasn't listed as a social media company, because Snapchat, where it is being used as a carriage service for a lot of illicit content for children. Given that is so dangerous for kids, why that wasn't listed as a social media platform, whereas I think it's reasonable to say Facebook nowadays is more or less tame. It is a pretty boomer place to go.
It is, yeah. The other thing that gets me, like, there's a couple questions I have. So Instagram's launched this teen account thing, right? But Instagram has been banned as a social media for our under 16s.
Yeah.
is this them? I don't know. Is this something to try and get around that? Because we're not the only ones with an under 16 social media ban. I found out the other day.
Oh, go
Forget
on.
who else
Yeah.
does, but another country does.
I mean, a lot of countries just don't have social media at all.
Well, yeah.
So, I suppose it can't be not unsurprising.
Yeah. No point banning it if no one can really use it.
Yeah.
But Instagram, I guess, is this their way of going, let's keep a young market by creating a solution that kind of goes around these bans. But at the same time, these Instagram teen accounts, it looks like you can still post photos. There's still like a public forum for discussion, which was the main issue that was raised in the social media ban. They weren't banning things like messaging and stuff like that, which, as you said, is where most of the risk really lies. I don't really feel, at least in my experience or experience of colleagues I went to school with or anything, bullying didn't happen in a public place, which is where the social media ban targeted. It happened in private messages and things like that.
Hey, did you see Adolescents?
I have seen Adolescents.
Yeah, and I think this is I think this is a good kind of use case of that, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Everyone's talking about adolescence, so it's almost like I guess a lot of our listeners are about, we're hearing about this again.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of the commentary about adolescence, the TV show, didn't really go far enough. I actually think Adolescence gave a far more over-encompassing viewpoint of the challenges facing children now than a lot of commenters said, because a lot of commenters looked at it and it kind of started and stopped with the manosphere argument. And obviously the manosphere point was very heavily featured in Adolescence, but I think it goes way, way, way beyond that.
I think it does too.
So one classic example is where the policeman and his young son were talking, and his young son's like, "Oh, Dad, can I talk to you? The red balloon means this, and this means that," and then like the coded messaging, and then it's they would leave comments on there, but the parents weren't aware of the cyberbullying because it was almost happening in the open.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if this actually happens with kids nowadays, but then the psychologist then goes and she said, would have really hurt when Katie left a hurtful comment on one of his photos and like 20 people liked it or something.
Yeah,
She
yeah.
would have really hurt. And then she raises like, well, kind of like, why didn't you just get rid of social media? And the pushback is like, well, how do you have a life? Like, how am I meant to see what people are doing? How am I meant to
Yeah.
And it's for kids nowadays, part of your real life is actually online. Your interactions are online. Your ability to socialize is online.
Yeah.
And to almost have a protective parent who says to a child that you can't go on social media, well, then maybe you're also opening them up for more bullying because they can't have social media.
That's one of the issues I have with the social media ban as well, because one, it's a super easy thing to game. Even when you have things like this kind of age verification AI or other forms of age verification, you're still going to get parents wanting their kids to be happy and included, creating accounts for them, right?
Yeah.
But then there's going to be the couple kids whose parents stick to the book and go, no, it's illegal, you're not having social media. And all it does is isolate them from social media planning, from discussions that happen online, and it kind of pulls them out, even if they've got a group of friends, but that group of friends has social media and they're all hanging out, they're missing out on so much, and it's just going to kind of isolate them. And I think that is almost as bad as bullying.
Yes.
Or could lead to bullying.
And I agree with the notion of it that if you say had an overprotective parent and say you can't have Instagram, and then suddenly you're at school and then the other 25 people in class have Instagram, you're the only one not on it.
Yeah.
By nature, you will be isolated from your peers.
Or even bullied for so.
Or even bullied for being so. Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Though if we did have a blanket ban, is that not a way that you won't be left out then?
It's just about how is it enforced.
Yep.
Because there's just too many ways. And that was the other thing. There wasn't a lot of detail in this social media ban of how it was going to be enforced. The exact details of what was banned were still up in the air for quite a while. That's kind of the main thing of like, if it's not an enforceable law, it's useless, right? But there's going to be people that do stick to it, and it's just going to create rifts.
Yeah.
If you could introduce a blanket ban that was effective and enforceable, then sure, that issue is resolved. But
There'd be ways.
surely. But like
there'd be ways.
someone who could go, instead of going on a phone, for example, say they've got like a photo AI thing to detect age, right? I don't know exactly how the AI works, but I would assume it's got some sort of biometric or something like that. what stops someone just going on a computer without a camera or finding some other way to avoid that biometric verification? Unless it's like a requirement, but then that you also then put like a financial impact on people. Someone might have a phone, their camera doesn't work. You now don't get social media. The people who can afford that technology can. It's not. There's never going to be a perfect solution. I don't think.
No, there's not. But it was rolled out in a very perhaps suboptimal way.
It was quick, and I agree with the idea of protecting children online. I think that's important. Don't completely agree with how it was.
Banning Snapchat, like that seems to
that
be
one's
the most
weird.
obvious.
That one is really weird.
Yeah.
In my experience,
Literally
at school,
the disappearing image app.
Yeah,
that seems like the worst one. That's
it caused issues at my school. It caused issues at colleagues' schools. Everyone's got a horrifying Snapchat story, right? And that's led to again bullying and worse. And I won't get into full details because it can get quite dark. But it's it's one of those things where it seems silly for that not to be the first one chosen almost.
And we hear so many stories, not us at Cyber Daily, but just in major news outlets and concerned people coming out about the mental health issues that a lot of sextortion online causes. And actually that goes back into adolescence where that poor young lady
Absolutely.
Had her images sent around. But a lot of people at that age get so frightened of it and they're being extorted and the mental health issues. We've seen a lot of suicide from it. So I still think that there is room for improvement, not only at an individual level but as a society. Yeah. On that note, if anyone does want to get involved in the conversation about how we can better shape policy for social media for young Australians, do get involved. Turning to more traditional cyber incidents at the moment. Daniel, broke my heart. M&S had a cyber incident.
Yeah, Marks and Spencer's.
Yeah.
I'd never been in a Marks and Spencer's till I went over to the UK recently. And
you get your £5 chip and sandwich combo.
It's great. They sell everything.
Yep.
We don't have anything like that here.
Greggs, man.
Oh, I love
Greggs. I
Greggs.
reckon you'd be a Greggs fiend.
I love Greggs. Greggs was awesome. We'd be driving along in the rental, and every time I saw a Greggs, got to get another sausage roll. Yeah. But no, it was a shock to see this morning. So you guys will hear it not today, but a couple days ago for you. Marks and Spencer's revealed that they had suffered a cyber incident. No. Very little detail. Troy Hunt, who runs Have I Been Pwned, actually commented on that, saying that the letter they put out didn't advise customers on what to do. Bad oversight. Gave very little detail. But all we know is that some of their systems were taken offline, including click and collect orders, which has angered a lot of customers. Oh, yeah. And digital payments. Yep. Which, and this is like a big hack too. Apparently it's affected, or if it is a hack, it's affected I think it's like 1,024 stores or something they've got. It's roughly that number, but all of them across the UK have been affected. Yeah.
It is quite odd that you don't have details.
Yeah.
You don't have advice to customers because they would be under GDPR.
Yeah. Would they?
Well, I just Googled it then. They have stores in Ireland.
Well, then they would be then.
They'd have to be.
No,
I don't know if in leaving the EU that the UK left GDPR rules. Yeah. But if they're trading and they would have a very big database of European customers.
Yeah.
Then they fall under GDPR.
Yeah, that's 100% true. If they're trading in Europe, so technically, or in the EU, which they are, that's very true. Actually, we might see something come out of that.
Yeah, I'll reckon.
I reached out to them today, and I got to a media number that was out of hours, and he took a bunch of details. I don't think
he answered.
Yes, a guy on the media line answered.
Sounding very tired.
Oh, he did sound tired, and he sounded like he was completely confused. He had no idea that Marks and Spencer's had put out a statement saying they'd been hacked.
Clearly, he's not listening to the Cyber Daily podcast, Cyber on Cart, because we
he
tell
should
people
be
all the time.
Yeah, and it just came across very strange to me that the media contact didn't know anything about it. I would have assumed that was probably what they're getting called about more than anything at the moment. But no. But anyway, their stores are open. Website and app are operating as normal. But they said that it was necessary to make some minor temporary changes to our store operations to protect customers and the business. They also have no deadline for when this is going to be sorted out.
Oh, good.
They responded to someone complaining after they drove a 26-mile round trip to collect a parcel, only to be told I couldn't have it, even though it's there, because their click and collect systems are down. And they just said, we don't have a time where this will be resolved. Sorry.
Yeah, that would annoy me.
Yeah, that'd make me quite annoyed.
Yeah, I have some stuff to say over that. We're going to go to a quick break and we'll be back in just a second. And we're back. Liam Garman, Daniel Croft. Now, Daniel, Flow Rider lawmakers pushed to pass social media backdoor bill.
This one annoys me a little bit.
Well, I thought this was going to be the case.
Yeah, so Florida, lawmakers in Florida, they're looking at introducing a backdoor for social media, like an encryption backdoor. So social media has your data, your account data, message data, whatever. It's protected by an encryption that, this higher level encryption that you're seeing more often, even the company can't access. And as a result, law enforcement can't access, right? And so while your data is perfectly safe, there is a use case where law enforcement might benefit from seeing it, right? And they're looking at introducing legislation to fix that, for social media to be required to make backdoors. What annoys me about it, though, is that the US, the Trump administration, raised this as a concern when the UK did the same thing to Apple. The UK asked Apple, hey, we want a way to get in and look at data for law enforcement. And Apple said, well, we're not doing that. We'll create a backdoor for you. And the US went, no, you're not, because that means the UK can not only see their data, they can see everyone's data. Yeah. And so Apple are appealing it at the moment.
But now they've gone and done that to who?
On a state level. Yeah, Florida is requesting that.
For all social media.
By the looks of things, yeah. So it's the Social Media Use by Minors Bill. So it does a bunch of protections for children, but it also aims to provide a mechanism to decrypt end-to-end encryption when law enforcement obtains a subpoena.
Oh, I don't mind it. What are your philosophical, political apprehensions to it? Now, I can only assume that without me on this potty over the last few weeks, you guys have been opinionated on
absolutely
on the regime. Are we saying that, or the White House?
The Trump administration.
The administration. Yeah.
Look, I agree with one thing Trump said. It's very, very, very. The way he's worded it is very Trump, but he says that it's something you hear about with China when referring to this UK requesting this backdoor.
Yeah, it is, right?
Yeah. And, a bunch of lawmakers have said this is like a threat to the security of US citizens and things like that. Now, in this context, less so because it's the US after US citizen data. But again, if they have a backdoor, they can see then the data of, based on the same kind of principle, of UK citizens, Australian citizens.
Yeah.
And that's a massive security risk in my mind. Yes, you could argue, it's just for law enforcement to use, but it's also, a potential vulnerability for threat actors. You then have to trust a foreign government not to look at data. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I can safely say, if the UK government saw some of the memes that I've shared on Meta, I don't think you're going to see me again. I reckon I think we're all in that same boat, though.
But
I reckon every person, every memeologist out there is in some real trouble if the UK government went through this.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. I would say so. But yeah,
so maybe you're right. Maybe allowing the backdoor into social media, and obviously we're going back to Florida now, but maybe it's not right.
The main thing for me as well was seeing Florida go, yeah, this is a good idea after
the pivot
at a federal government level or whatever, that it's a bad idea when someone else does it. That's the bit that got me the most in this regard. But even when it was just the UK and Apple, I was not keen for it. So.
The funniest thing, so we had a guest on this podcast that said we were talking about cyber war with a specific very big trading partner up north.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say the C word, but so we were talking about cyber war with them, and they said, I'm not particularly worried if we do go to war and we start all hacking each other because their systems are easier to hack than ours. And I'm like, oh, why is it? And they're like, well, literally every bit of internet-facing infrastructure in the entire country is made to be infiltrated by the government.
That makes sense.
Every internet-facing apparatus that they've got is made with a backdoor And he's like,
Yeah,
we'd
right.
find our way in far easier there. Well, at least we have protections in Western civilization that, we don't allow the government to intrude, that we actually our systems are more protected than China's.
That-
I said it. Oh, no.
But
What?
no, but that's a really good point.
Quite interesting.
The only thing I would say is that we all know that China, records known vulnerabilities. If they've got a researcher that finds a vulnerability in a Western company, they can choose to
Saying we
disclose
wouldn't
or
do the
keep.
same?
We probably do. But China is more open about it at least.
Yeah, I mean, isn't it our allies that made Pegasus and everything?
Yeah.
So,
You know what? You're right. Oh, okay. Well, in that case, yeah,
Well, I'm
that's
not
true.
too worried.
I'm not that worried. It's me finding issue with something I don't like, but it's not going to affect me.
Oh,
Surely, right?
I know for a fact I've already got some. No, I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it. Moving on. Android phones will now reboot every 3 days for security. Android.
Yes. No, Apple already does this.
What?
So this actually,
You're an Android guy.
I'm an iPhone now.
Oh,
I got an iPhone 16.
Shut the front door.
Yeah, it's great. It's a good phone.
I never pictured you as an iPhone guy.
The main thing was the camera's really good, the
It
microphone's
is.
really good, and I record a lot of gigs and stuff for
Yeah.
socials and all that kind of stuff. There are things I really miss about my Google Pixel. It's just that it was falling apart. I did not take care of it.
The cameras sucked.
The Pixel cameras were
Pixel cameras
brilliant. I maintain they're the best
I've got a
smartphone cameras.
Samsung S23 Ultra, and at the time it was probably more expensive than the iPhone
Oh,
anyway.
yeah, absolutely.
And I started taking photos. I'm like, it's terrible.
That-
Like this.
The thing Apple does really well is the software side of things.
Yeah.
Like that, I know like the new Samsungs come with like a 200 megapixel camera. I remember at a former job, I reviewed a Chinese
Yeah, you
brand
told me about
with
this.
a 200 megapixel camera, thinking it's got to be great,
Yeah,
right?
wasn't it that the software can't keep up with how good the camera is or something?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just the software side of things meant that, yes, you get a lot of detail if you really zoom in and everything like that, but they're not as pleasant to look at. While on an
Yeah,
iPhone,
mine's terrible. I can't believe I took it on a honeymoon. It was just, what a waste.
yeah. Like, and look,
know?
I think if you were to go in and you were really good at adjusting all settings and everything, you could probably get a really good photo.
Yeah.
But
I genuinely don't even know.
yeah,
Some of them are so bad, and it'll be like 2 meters away, and I shouldn't be adjusting like lighting and
Yeah,
stuff. But anyway, so going back to the reboot every
Yeah.
3 days, what's happening?
so this I thought this was a good one to kind of go on because it's a lot more positive. So
we support this, do we?
absolutely, this
Our
is great.
editorial direction is that we support this.
This is great. It actually kind of touches on law enforcement access as well. So pretty much when your phone, if you've ever picked your phone up after turning it off or it's run out of battery and it won't let you use your biometrics to log in, right? You have to use your passcode to log in. That's because it's in what's called before first unlock stage.
Yep.
And in before first unlock stage, all data on the phone is encrypted. So you can't get in and access all of it. While after you unlock it for the first time, until you turn it off again, it's in what's called after first unlock stage.
Yep.
Not all the data is encrypted. Some of it encrypts when it locks, but there's lots that isn't, just for being able to access it quickly.
It would just still be running in the background or
Yeah.
functioning. Yep, that makes sense. Yeah.
So what they're saying is if you've got a phone that lies dormant, we want to be able to restart it so that if it gets stolen or someone gets remote access or anything like that, the data remains encrypted. No one
that's
can go in and
smart.
take any of it.
Yeah, that's
and
really smart.
Apple's already done it.
yeah.
The only difference is they said 72 hours instead of 3 days, which same thing.
Same thing.
Yeah.
I was hang on. Am I an idiot?
Yeah, no. So yeah, that's it. So it protects from threat actors. Law enforcement also can't get in as easily.
You got a bit of a bend against the old popo today.
You know what? With this, I've got no problem with law enforcement getting a specific device.
Yeah.
And being able to get into that. Not a problem. With the backdoor thing though, law enforcement can then technically access things they're not looking for.
Yeah.
The likelihood of such, probably not high.
Man,
But-
when they have that fake app for the drug dealers, remember that one?
No.
Yeah, it's how they broke all the crime syndicates last year. They had they had like a Telegram signal, like a fake app, like a Wicker, right?
Yeah.
But it was run by the AFP and a few other agencies. And so what they did is they got all the crime figures to use this app saying it's encrypted, but it was run by the AFP.
That's brilliant.
We never didn't we know this?
I didn't know it. I actually didn't know
we got to
it.
revisit this. That's actually an entire podcast. And that is all we have time for today on the Cyber Uncut podcast. That was Daniel Croft and Liam Garman. And until next week, bye-bye.
See you later.